Public comments will be heard after each agenda item. If you plan to speak, please fill out a form on the table near the door you came in and give it to the city clerk. Before we proceed, I'd like to make an adjustment to the meeting. I'm going to add 2 items for discussion, one being the TIF policy and then the second being the IBC, which is the International Building Code in reference to the garage. So first, we'll start off with the TIF. I know that at the 4-1 meeting, we made an agreement that we would have the draft TIF policy to council by last week, and then we would have it for discussion this week. And I know that item is not on the agenda. We don't have a draft policy, so just want to get an update from administration on what's going on with that, and I guess when we should, third time the charm for that one.
Yeah, we've drawn it.
Press the button.
Am I good?
Did you guys approve that to add that to the agenda just now?
We don't have to. It's a work session, so
Okay.
I can just. Correct. Oh, hang tight. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
The city clerk, and do I have to have a motion or?
Is it concurrent? I didn't think so. It's a work session.
No, it's a work session, so I can just.
Okay.
Admit. Great, thank you.
Well, 2 things. One, we've drawn some other TIF policies. I think the one in Frederick is really good, so we're going to probably try to use that as our model. So beyond that, no, we haven't finalized it, no, and we haven't gotten you a draft, and no, we had a little. You want to comment on that at all?
Still working through the revisions.
Okay.
Yep.
So if you would just want to keep us posted and
Sure.
keep in constant communication with us, just so we're not expecting, and then so that, again, because 4/15 was our agreed upon deadline, just send us an email just to.
Well, I would have been more prepared if I thought it was going to be mentioned tonight. I'd get ready to bring you some copies. And things.
Well, we, at the 4-1
I
work session, we.
understand. So
So just to, I just want to make sure, and then the public would, because I had questions, and I just want to make sure the public knew that we did, acknowledge that we had a conversation on it, and just want to make sure that we are all aware, just to make sure everyone's on the same page, that again, we all agreed to the 4/15 deadline, but there were some hiccups, it sounds like, but it wasn't communicated, but now we've communicated that.
Yeah.
And so now we're looking at what, just so we can keep on the same page, are we looking at the next work session, which is in 2 weeks, May 1st?
yeah, we'll get back to you on that. We'll get back to you on that.
So it sounds like we're going to.
Well, I want to make sure, I don't want to have a bunch of false starts. So I'd like to, if we could talk privately about it. Once we get a little warmer, we'll put it on the agenda for a discussion.
Council, do we have any questions? Or questions? What
I
questions
mean,
do we have?
the TIF policy's been around for like almost a year, and so we're now at the point where we're trying to put the collar together on it. We're going to do that, and we pulled some other examples that are good ones, and getting it right's the important part. But I think that we involve the union stuff and the budget, and we've got some other priorities going on right this second. So we can talk offline about that and bring a date that's appropriate.
So I guess just not to
both
give
parties.
council false starts in the public, so it sounds like we're going to
Well,
put this
part
on.
of the problem is you keep putting it on the agenda when we're not ready. It's not a false start. It's a matter of we're just not ready yet.
Mr. Mayor, respectfully, this was an item that was brought to us. The TIF was brought back in October. The TIF was, hang tight,
Okay.
hold on. It was brought to us
Okay.
as a TIF, again. City Administrator Kitzrow, was this brought to us back in October? And then again, it was brought to us, was it late March, I believe? So I didn't put on the agenda. It was, again, brought to us. And then we agreed in that March meeting that we would have it actually the beginning of April, right, follow-up, because we wanted to, and I said, I wanted for the public's sake and for council.
And I'm just telling you.
Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
please, thank you so much.
Okay.
And I just wanted, so we all agreed to these things, and then it didn't happen. So I'm just, again, making sure, because I sent the email, and it's just, so that's where I'm just, so I didn't add it to the agenda. There wasn't anything I did unjustly. There was an expectation, and it's fallen short. So this was at an announcement. It was at the request of the city for the policy. So if this is not something we're doing, then I don't want to set expectations between council and the public, is all I'm saying. So
Sure.
this is your stance to.
All I was asking for, let's talk privately, let's get a schedule, we'll put it together, and we'll get it on the agenda, that's all.
Now we've done that.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so we'll hold that off for now. It sounds like we have some work to do. I look forward to the discussions. Any other council comments? Okay. Looks like we have public comment. Robert Taylor.
Thanks, and I'll be brief. This is not my first TIF rodeo in Salisbury. I was involved in the Idlet Farm TIF about, well, it's not been 20 years, I don't think, but it's going on, maybe 15. I also have a couple calls in to public officials I know in other Maryland jurisdictions that have dealt with TIFs. It's just one of those things, takes time, got grass to mow these days. And anyway, I think I've sent you some stuff that I found, and I'll probably be sending more. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing that as the last public comment, and we'll move on to the IBC with, in reference to the parking garage. Again, this is, I know that we got an email from an individual, which is a developer, but again, knowing that there was a time with that May 1st timeline with getting that through with the International Building Code, I believe that's what IBC stands for, that after May 1st, if we were to do a parking garage in the city, it's going to raise the price substantially because of the new code regulations in reference to the sprinkler. So again, if we were to ever do a parking garage in the city, we need to have those conversations now to get I think it's the drawings submitted in so that we're in the deadline, that we're in that grace period in there. So wanted to bring that up so we can publicly say what we're going to do, kind of what's the plan. And so if we want to save the citizens and the taxpayers any money as it pertains to this parking garage, it would be advantageous for us to start those conversations.
Council President, I have a question about I think we did, correct me please, or help me, give me some information historically. Did we also ask administration about the garage information?
Yeah, this is just a follow-up. So again, I want
Follow up.
this. Yep.
So we're asking for when we're going to have that conversation and the schisms available financially, drawings, this kind of thing together, when we can put that on the agenda.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Thank you.
Jimmy,
Yeah, there are no current discussions going on with that project at
Okay.
this point.
We're not with the project. Nope.
No, I know.
They're separating. So with the parking garage.
Garage or otherwise, it's this
Okay.
project.
So
yeah.
we, as of now, we're not planning to do a parking garage in the city.
No, okay.
My only, and I'm not trying to
I
push
think
this into a
this-
conversation, I'm just saying, if we were to ever do it, there's that May 1st, again, there was a 2-year grace period with the IBC. Given that May 1st is coming up, and again, so I would almost, not like for us as, it's my duty to bring this up now, because again, there's a 14-day rather, after today with this.
Good.
If we say in June, we're like, oh, actually, we're going to do a parking garage, when we could have saved, between, I don't know, 500,000 just to spitball some numbers out with, and then this now, we have to add in the sprinklers with this.
the parking garage and the development in question are two separate projects, but are wrapped together because the parking garage is wrapped by the development. The issue is the development as proposed has not been approved. So we're in this peculiar situation where we want to approve a design of a parking garage wrapped with a project that is not approved. So I'm not sure where we stand because there are the bones of the parking garage, the size of it, but the final design layout will be determined by if there's development adjacent to it, wrapping it, and the size of it. Now, is there flexibility? That would be something we'd have to talk to with the developer and the design engineering firm to see on what would be required to be as a submittal for that design, whether we proceed with executing the garage and financing and building it, but having final design plans, what is the level of design required, and if they're allowed to have any slight modifications to that design plan post the May 1st deadline, which would be facade improvements, et cetera, in case you were to use different apartments. But, so we're kind of in this weird position in that project. But as you stated, there is a change to the code that if we did not meet that deadline, any design garages after, it's actually April 1st of the deadline, you have a 45-day
Sure,
extension. If you don't have it, then you will now be required to include sprinklers into your design, and that includes open-air garages. So not a cheap addition to the infrastructure, but we are where we are.
Sure.
Council President, may I speak? Okay, so two questions. One, you mentioned something about reaching out to the developer. When are your plans to do that, to see if he's going to, I guess, submit a I want to use the word drawing, plan.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's a plan.
When is the administration's timeline for that?
Yeah, I might have misspoke saying developer. It's really more the design firm for the development.
Yeah.
To asking them to understand what are the opportunities within their design submission for the garage. It would be impractical for the developer to have a complete redesign of that site right now. It's more about, I'm focusing on the parking garage. But again, still, designing a parking garage and developing a parking garage, building it are kind of two different things.
Yeah.
The second, oh, I'm sorry.
I read the email, and it looks like some of this is, and again, I look to you all to look at the factual basis behind it. But my only reason for bringing this up was I'm not saying I'm in favor one way or the other. All I'm saying is I believe it's our diligence as the elected official and the elected body here that if this was a way for us to save money, we know the needs with our city, their future plans, we've had discussions, given that those plans, we are going to need a substantial parking substance, more than a parking lot, said and done, passed. We need a parking substance for our city. This is a way there's a deadline, like it or not, but there's a deadline that will, if we surpass it, it's going to cost the taxpayers far more money. That's my only reason to say this. I'm not pushing you one way or the other, and again, even if we do submit these, we're not locked into doing some sort of substance, are we?
The way we would be locked in, again, you have to read the details of the
Sure.
LDA with the development. Our requirements to build a parking garage based off a relationship with the developer of the LDA is based off of their ability to perform as well as us to perform. So if they can't perform, do we have to build the garage? So I think we have to decide what is going to be developed there, if something's going to be developed, and how and what structure would accommodate it or accompany it or not. But how we and what we decide to design, if we decide to finish the design, that's something we want to do immediately or potentially change course.
I guess I'm looking to you, Mr. Mayor, as, again, giving some sort of direction. I know we've been playing this song and dance since November, thinking I'm yada yada, but this is given right, exactly. Time is ticking. It's talked. You have to determine what you're going to do as of now, or it's going to cost the taxpayers more money. If you're not going to do it, then you have to figure out a plan for how our citizens are going to park. That is where I am at this point. Given it's April 15th, we are at a deadline. That's where I want this conversation to kind of land, and that's where I'm looking to you for some guidance.
Well, I think if we're thinking about taxpayers, we wouldn't build a garage that's going to cost us $650,000 fully ramped up. I mean, forget about the sprinkler system for the moment. We've got that challenge, which has been a problem from the get-go. On top of that, we've got a project that's, for good or for bad, in decline. It's a decline project, so we're certainly not going to build it in absence of having and I think it's a little unfair to ask the developer to fund that request on the design side, if in fact we won't move forward with it either way. So it's been sort of our position to sort of let's recalibrate the project generally to find out where we are. It's not us dragging our feet so much as we're trying to figure out what's the next step, what's the project, what's the repayment source, how do we put this all together. The sprinklers are the least of our worries, in my opinion.
So
absolutely least of our worries.
This cost provision is the least of your worries.
Of a project that, at the best case scenario, will cost us $6 million over 10 years in negative cash flow, and that's best case. So I'm just saying that I understand where you're coming from, but I can't in good conscience ask the developer to finish a design on a project that we don't have an approved project to repay on a project already is going to cost us $650,000. So if we're looking at the taxpayer, I don't think there's anybody here that's sitting on the edge of their seat worried about the sprinkler system in the garage.
But I do know people that want parking in the city. So I think that's our diligence. And given the plans that we have for the city, we've got to figure out a mechanism for us to have folks park here.
Well, again, if you're worried about parking, in my opinion, it's your first day on the job, because we've already eliminated or potentially eliminating the critical part of our parking for which we need to be considerate of any development going forward.
We're beyond that. We can't dismantle the LDA.
Well, I think we'll have to dismantle the LDA if, in fact, at least temporarily, to design the project. But that's what I'm saying. These are all moving parts relative to the end game here. So, again, all these are things that, you're on my calendar every week for an hour, and we've talked about, we could have talked about this offline every week, anytime. You might call my office, come to my office anytime. We don't have to throw it on the agenda 5 minutes before and then have a negative conversation, in my opinion. So we can work through this problem. It's not something that we can't come to agreement on.
Make sure. I didn't know this was a negative conversation. This is just how, again, things of transparency. I think people would want to know the conversations we're having. I'm only asking because usually, and again, it's history serves well, my emails and responses don't go quite well. So
That's absolutely incorrect.
okay, I'm not going to play a song and dance with you, Mr. Mayor, but this is a public platform for us to ask questions. I'm taking that advantage also for citizens to ask questions, which they have wanted to do. They want to be a part of the conversations. I feel like this is actually a more fair way for us to have the conversation. If you don't feel comfortable, I apologize. This is why we got into this. This is for these tough conversations. And again, we're in the situation. It's my diligence to let the public know that May 1st, or in 45 days from that point, there's please, 45 days that there's a deadline. And again, if we're going to figure out a mechanism for parking, we have to put our brain power behind this. And so that's why we got into this. I think so. Councilwoman, yes.
Yeah, my question is, as of now, take the garage, the project conversation, and put it in the we're still working on it block. What is the city's plan for parking down there, going beyond what we had initially approved? What is your vision for that going forward? Help us know that.
So you're saying the short-term plan for parking?
Yeah, because we don't own, because the city does not own those lots. So putting everything on hold until you're processing through it and sorting it out, okay, but what are we going to do until something else manifests, or until...
Well, built into the LDA was an agreement that during the period with which they design it, until they pull a building permit for a construction of a project, we have a relationship for parking. And I think they pay, I don't know what the finance, it's like 90 cents a spot or something like that, for which we pass on. So in perpetuity, we have parking as we've always had, less the Unity Square. I mean, we eliminated that, but everything else is in place until such time as we can rework it with the developer. And because I mean, we're getting. We just met this week with our zoning, or I guess urban planning folks that are doing a comprehensive plan. And we're talking about doing a small area plan for the back lot to try and generate some ideas of how we can put this project together with the developer. So, like I say.
Okay. I mean, that's kind of stuff that's good to know, because.
Sure.
Like if you're meeting with the developer, to kind of hash all those other LDA stuff out, and if the developer has agreed to, they do own the lots, so that's what a lot of the concern is. But I'm really happy to hear that you're looking at what to do until, or when, if this all gets sorted out.
It's an extremely odd situation to have a project that was sold lots and then have it fail, or have it fail, get denied. So we're trying to work through it, but we can't design it for them. Then we're going to give them some conceptual ideas, and I think try to work towards a firm plan.
Well, I don't think the project failed. I think the thing was the density issue was the question.
That's what I mean.
So they may recalibrate the project.
Yeah. So we're talking about I don't want to get too far. Just to make sure we're for time.
Okay.
So I just would like to make a couple of points of clarification. Number one, we're talking about taxpayer dollars. Honestly, the reality is this garage is going to be funded by user-generated revenue.
Thank you.
Through a
So
bond.
it is not going to be paid for out of tax dollars. It's going to be paid for out of by the people who are using the garage. That is who is going to pay for it. And the other thing is that the current garage we have, if I'm correct, is past its current lifespan, technically, its expected lifespan. So we really do need to have a parking garage built sooner rather than later. This needs to be done. And I'd also like to point out, as someone who represents the downtown area, our businesses are struggling as we're sitting in limbo. These businesses have seen a loss of profits due to this fenced-up parking lot, and because of the negative attitudes about it, they have been seeing losses in their finances. We have had businesses close downtown because of this, and I am really getting exhausted with this kicking the can down the road. We are in office, whether it was day 1 or day 16 or week 13, it doesn't matter. What matters is that we get off our duffs and we get stuff done. And that is what we expect, that is what the people we represent expect, and that is what the businesses downtown expect from us. So we need to get this done as sooner rather than later.
Well, I think if you talk to the downtown people, which I've had a building for 25 years and we had a business for 20 years downtown, they would tell you unequivocally that there has been a disruption due to construction and related stuff, which has nothing to do with, which only perpetuates with potentially a parking garage. The parking garage will not be paid by user fees. It will have a deficit, one that already owes us, the general fund, $700,000. So what I'm saying is, listen, if you're not going to stand close enough to the numbers to have an educated conversation, I can't have one with you. I've got to have a conversation with the facts. And if the facts are, there is not enough revenue to support the garage, period.
Thank you. Can we just really, really quickly, Andy, in 30 seconds or less, do you agree with that statement about the user-generated funds and how the garage will be paid for? And because the mayor spoke to the education and the intelligence of that statement, so can you hang tight?
I'm going to sidestep on you to stick with the IBC conversation.
Thank you.
My plan over the next couple of weeks would be to talk with the design firm to find out if what is proposed right now is allowed to be submitted as an acceptable submission. If we were to then down the road move forward in some capacity where that design plan could be used, great. We've already invested the money, it's already set up. There is a chance, though, that we've designed something that ends up not being the final product, but at least we're trying. So I don't want to make the developer and anybody else spend a whole bunch more time. We're about like at 75%, if that will solve the problem. With the actual budget stuff, I don't want to necessarily get into that right here.
No worries. Thank you for that, though. I appreciate that piece. All right, we have one public comment. Robert Taylor.
Hello again, and this is also not my first rodeo with parking garages. I was involved in the one that's across the street, also one in Ocean City over the years. Now, this is as a lawyer, not as a builder, but I do have some idea about how they're built. But my question, I guess, for you, Mr. Doty, is why would you not want a sprinkler? If this is now going to be required by public safety codes, why wouldn't we want to do it? The garage is going to be around, if it's like the one over here, for decades, not just for 6 months until it's torn down. So if that's now the code, or is going to be in a couple weeks, we should damn well follow it. Now, there's a reason they're doing it, among other things, just general safety, and now we have electric vehicles with large batteries in them, with chemicals, and there's a problem with those fires on those vehicles. So that's one of the reasons for that. Now, another factor in garage construction is the weight of those electric vehicles. They weigh much more than gasoline or diesel-driven vehicles, and that's particularly true for SUVs and trucks. So there's a lot of factors here, but let's not shortchange safety to save some money. It doesn't make sense. That's not a proper way to do things. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to make sure I clarify, I've never